All right, I'm already off schedule. Let's keep going. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I set up in Edwardsville. My company is Goshen Education Consulting. Let's see, there we go. And as you heard, I do educational research and evaluation. And now actually we're doing the program implementation for the Department of Defense. And about, I guess, 20 years ago, I started working as, 20 years ago, I was in a consulting firm in Chicago, and it had nothing to do with this next. It was in education. And then I went to work for a research institute at Iowa State. While I was there, I said, oh man, this evaluation stuff, this is just like the consulting I used to do at the consulting firm in Chicago. So I kind of just started operating that way, and I kept hours, and I kept all my time by 15-minute increments, and the people there thought I was absolutely bonkers nuts. But it was just a way that I knew that I was getting all my work done, and then if anybody ever questioned me, are you doing your 20 or 30 hours a week as a doctoral graduate assistant, research assistant, I could say, yeah, look, see, here it is. So I'd share that with them. Anyhow, that's a little bit of my background. So I thought, this is fine. All this evaluation stuff I'm doing is kind of a neat way to get through grad school. But what I think I'll do is I'll go become a director of institutional research at a university, and I'll get away from all this evaluation. And I'll have this nice secure job, and I'll do data analysis for like presidents. It'll be pretty soft, pretty cool. I'll be in the Association for Institutional Research, and I did. I spent a lot of time investing time in that. Well, something happened. My job was fine. In fact, I got promoted and I moved to a different institutions. It's a great area. Institutional research is a fantastic job. Anyway, while I go to this breakfast with my provost, and he says, I want to introduce you to the superintendent. Hey, we need some help with this evaluation thing. Would you like to do it? We'll pay you. And I liked that. I was like, wait, pay me? I love that. So I said, well, I need some new windows for my house. We were pretty poor and couldn't afford stuff. So I said, all right, go ahead and do that. Anyhow, so I started doing some side work, and I did that. And the next thing you know, somebody said, hey, we need an evaluator for this thing. And it was kind of affiliated with the other one. And so now all of a sudden I had 2 projects, and then I had 4 projects. And then I had 5 projects, and I was trying to pull down a full-time job. And so as my accountant likes to put it, I was converted by market demand. But in 2009, I started the company officially because I had these proposals out there, and I said, I might as well be a company. And then in 2011, I went 100% into the company and left my, quote unquote, day job. So with that, I'm going to end this polling so you can see who's here. Most people are in the idea stage, I can see. There's one person here just because they're lonely. I love that. There's some people who are thinking about it. There's one person who's on the verge of starting. I know that's good. You're going to love this, and I got some neat ideas for you already. And also your newly solo person who's been there for less than 5 years. We've got some ideas for you, and then we have 2 people who are experienced. And honestly, I could just hand this over to them, and they could do this presentation. Say, hey, Anne, this is yours. And actually, she'd take it up and she'd run with it. She'd do fine. So here's the sharing of the results. Right. So stop sharing. So anyway, I also want to make a point to say that all my presentation was originally kind of put together with my good friend Laura. Laura's an independent consultant out in LA. And that we should also point out that Dale Barrington originally did all these workshops. She handed her material over to her, and a lot of what I'm doing today was based upon her work. We have a little plug to her, Consulting Startup Management. You can purchase this book on Amazon. It was like listed for like $180 or some ridiculous amount recently, and we talked them down, and so now it's back to a reasonable price. It's not, I think it's like 30 or 40 bucks. I don't remember the price right now. And if you know the price, could you put it into the chat box? I know she does. Anyhow, it's a great book. We all recommend it. She is an evaluator. She's from Canada. She's Canadian Evaluation Association and the American Evaluation Association. And she did 20 years of workshops, just like what I'm doing today. Most of them were 6 hours, and like we're only going to cover about an hour today. And she took all these ideas and she put it in the book. And so it's a great reference for all of us. So highly recommended. I do also want to do one more self-serving plug. actually my first self-serving plug of the night. I'm sure I'll have a couple more. But last December, a group of us, Norma Martinez Rubin and Amy Vermouth and I, edited this volume called Independent Evaluation Consulting, Approaches and Practices from a Growing Field. And it is a series of different articles all about independent consulting. And this is the stuff that I wish I had when I first started. I actually found the 2005 volume that was from before. And so this was the 2019 kind of updated volume. And so maybe we should start now so we can have one in 2029, because it takes a couple years to get these things out. I did share with you ahead of time, if you registered a couple days ago, I did share that article from Amy Vermouth, Succeeding as an Independent Evaluation Consultant, Requisite Skills and Attributes. I'm going to touch on it a little bit today. There's some quotes from her article, but I think it's a great primer for what we're talking about today. And I'll remind you about this at the end of the session. If you're interested in hearing from Amy herself, and she's a lot more funny than me because she has cats in her slides. She also has a guinea pig, and she promised that she's going to have the fly from, and she'll incorporate this into independent consulting somehow. I don't know how she'll do it. She's amazing that way. She's going to incorporate the fly from Pence's hair yesterday into an independent consulting session. It's free, so it's worth the money, but I'm just telling you, the time will be well spent on your part. I also highlighted my article in here, Applying Business Management Approaches to Independent Evaluation Consulting. And I also want to point out, Chapter 7 is by our colleague, Ann Webb Price, and her friend Susan Wolf. They co-wrote that article. So Ann Price is in your local affiliate, and she's fantastic. You should read her article and learn lots of things. Some other things in there that I want to point out is there was a article in there from Stephanie Evergreen and Nina Sabar. Everybody gets excited about Stephanie Evergreen. Branding for the Independent Consultant. It's definitely worth your time to read that. I actually think one of the best articles in all of here, and I was a total surprise to me. I had to edit this chapter. It's from Niles Young and Svetlana Negrestrueva, the International Evaluation chapter, which is chapter 10. It gives you like play-by-play how you start an evaluation, independent evaluation consulting practice for international evaluation. It's like how you do it. And I was like, I don't want to do it, but man, if I did, I'd know what to do. It's perfect. If you're thinking about consulting as your second career, this is the chapter 12. That's written by Gail Barrington. It's a fantastic chapter as well. I don't want to take anything away from Rita and Stephen and Leah. These other articles, they're all great. So let's see, what are we going to learn about today? We're going to talk about some consultant attributes. We're going to look at some of the responses from the independent consultants who completed a survey in 2015. It's also one of the chapters. We're going to talk about niche and how to identify a niche, i.e., your target market, who are you going to focus on. All right. Let's see, and I did this one already. In that Vermouth article, we talk about what's a consultant. She talks about benefits and drawbacks of independent consulting, and some consulting skills. So some of those things are marketing. So how you identify and talk to people about what you do and convincing them that they should, work with you and perhaps offer you a contract to do some evaluation. It talks about business and financial management. Those kind of skills of just doing QuickBooks or managing your accounting, organizing a business around, do you creating a corporation or an LLC or just staying as a sole proprietorship, thinking about time management, where are you going to spend your time? How much time should you be spending on doing the work versus doing the administration and the marketing? I like to think they're three-legged stool where 1/3 of the time should be focused on the work, at least 1/3 to 1/2 About a third of your time is on the organization and accounting pieces, and then 1/3 should be on kind of the promotion of your business. And when you get more business, you can spend more time on the actual evaluation piece, but you need to make sure you're focusing on networking and your organization and business and financial management. She also talks about, I think we just had that slide's duplicate. All right, let's talk about the consulting landscape. So what are consultants? So typically I stop and I ask you guys to put some stuff in the chat box, but I'm going to keep rolling through this. So we like to think that consultants sell knowledge, and skills and expertise, and for us, in applied research and evaluation. We really are, we're entrepreneurs. We're small business people. So we do more than just the evaluation piece. We think about how we can expand upon the evaluation that we do. How we work with one client, particularly the clients we like working with, they're a lot of fun. How we meet more people like them, so we're constantly trying to network and identify new opportunities. It makes some people pretty uncomfortable. I actually find that I, being the extrovert, I'm actually not nearly as good at this as my introvert friends, because they find themselves in comfortable situations with people that they like. And as they become entrepreneurs just because they find comfort, and they're actually really good at listening. And I'm not as good at listening as I ought to be, and I'll be the first one to admit that. I kind of hear my own voice sometimes. We like to say that management consulting is one of the fastest growing industries over the last decade. In Hale's book, she talks about how consulting was scheduled to increase by 83% over the next decade. Well, the book was written 10 years ago, and nobody's ever done the repeat research to figure out whether or not that's in fact the case. But I can say that the independent consulting topical interest group, or what we call the ICTIG, has ranged in size from about 578 people to up to about 1,500 in 2013. And right now, we usually sit around 1,000 people. And so that's out of about 7,000 people in all of America, of the American Evaluation Association. So 1/7 of the size, whatever that percentage is. But we are a large TIG. We're usually in the top 5. I think right now we're top 3. We're top 2 after nonprofits for the longest time. But then those pesky data visualization people came along and they just got bigger and bigger. So I think we're behind them now. This is one of my favorite quotes. Yes, you can have some long work weeks doing what we do. I was putting together, not this presentation, but a whole other presentation about independent consulting last night until midnight. Now, I'm also leaving tomorrow to go to for a 4-day weekend, and I feel guilty about this, I'm going to be honest with you. I have 2 staff members and a grad assistant, and I kind of sprung it on them. And I said, I'm not going to do this in the future, but I can spring things on people. That's the awesomeness about being an independent consultant. I don't suggest that. I think that's not a really great practice, but it is nice. I work pretty hard, and so I get a chance to take off and do some vacation from time to time. So we're with the family. We're all going to go down to a house. We rented the house down on the lake in Missouri. Lake of the Ozarks, if anybody's familiar. Here's another one. So this talks about added value, and I love this quote because it gives me this opportunity to think about this. So I said we are entrepreneurs, but I actually think not everybody's an entrepreneur. And he likes to talk about the difference between a contractor and an entrepreneur. So a contractor is a person who provides what a client wants. Frequently, we have evaluation RFPs that come out, and it says, here's what the evaluator will do. That, my friends, is a contractor. Now, I don't generally work with those types of projects because I like to write my evaluation plan out. I like people to come to me and say, oh, I need an evaluator. And then, let's see, and I get to develop my own plan. I like to think of myself as an entrepreneur, a person who, where is it, provides what a client needs. So the difference is between wants and needs. The entrepreneur actually creates the opportunity to help the client think about what they should be doing. And the distance between these two is what Alan Weiss calls the value distance. And the value distance is this value is actually specific to your bottom line. If you can provide something that a client needs that they didn't know they needed, you are providing them with a value that that can be monetized. You can, monetize them with your fees, right? Because they say, well, we just need you to come in and do this evaluation that's required by our funder or something like that. And here's $5,000. Well, that's a great way to start with a client, but if you can show them what you're able to do for them in the way of creating dashboards or different types of data visualizations, then you're helping them understand what they might need that's additional to what they contracted you for. And that's that time that you can bill them for is an additional value to you. So why do people consult? Well, one of the main reasons is it's lucrative. And there's a lot of money in it. And I think Amy Hermuth put that in her article. There continues to be more and more opportunities. And I think right now, particularly in these kind of strange COVID-19 times, we do actually have a lot more opportunities. There are people who are downsizing, and so they need contractors to step in. There might be more people out there looking to do consulting, but I actually never really worry about them. It seems to me that if you're engaged, you're showing up to places like AAEA, and you're listening and talking to your colleagues, you're actually way ahead of the other folks out there who really don't know what they're doing. The fact that you're here today shows me that you're probably paying attention to how to develop a practice, and you're thinking very hard about that. Hopefully I set you up and give you a little bit of confidence today too. So a couple years ago, Glassdoor had a job score, and they talked about all these different positions. And these are in the top, let's see, it's here, the top 20 or top 25. What's interesting to do here is top 50, to look at the different positions and how they rank. What's fascinating here is that data scientist and data engineer are numbers 1 and 3. Now, you're not going to find an independent consultant or an evaluator as the top job because they just don't know who we are. We've had this conversation. I'm sure you've had it with your parents and your in-laws and whatever. What exactly is an evaluator? But I think we share a lot in common with data scientists and data engineers. I can say we're a bit different, but we have similar types of activities that we carry out. Those are the top jobs in America. Also, if you look at the U.S. News 2019, I need to update this. 100 best jobs, statistician is number 2. So we're in a good field. And so actually, to me, says, I've got the skills to go that are in demand. If I take a chance with independent consulting and I fall on my face, I know I'm going to find a job. These are the best jobs according to Glassdoor and U.S. News. So this gives me a little bit of confidence on starting a consulting practice. So let's talk about the survey that we did. In 2015, we did a survey of all independent consultants who affiliated with TIG, the independent consulting TIG. We got like 350, the numbers coming up on my slides and my couple slides, 350 overall responses, and we broke that down into people who were 100% committed to their consulting practices. And so we then further broke that up and found there are 17 full-time new consultants without staff who were in their first 4 years of practice, or first 5 years of practice. They were between 0 and 4 years of practice. So here's some things that we found out about them. So let's see if you fit any of these demographics. They were 82% women, 45% of them had PhDs. Important note, that means 55% of them had either a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, overwhelmingly a master's degree. So that tells me you do not have to have your PhD to do this. Although a lot of us do, it's not a requirement. I can tell you at a certain point, your client's looking at you and going, I don't care if you're a doctor or not, can you get the job done? And I love what you do and you're fantastic. Overwhelmingly, they were in this range of 33 to 55 years old. And so I said, if we were to create a made-for-TV movie about new independent consultants, American Evaluation Association, we would cast Naeem Bialik, you know, from Blossom or Big Bang Theory, to be our character. Wouldn't she be great? Wouldn't she be perfect? She, as you probably know, has a PhD, and she's an actress. And she's a pretty picture of her here. So why do people consult? The number one reason I would say, I don't know that this was from the survey, but this is one of the main reasons, is people want that independence. A lot of people like the flexibility. Pre-COVID, I would walk down the street 2 blocks to my daughter's elementary school, and I'd have lunch with her every Tuesday. And I was on a first name basis with the security guard, Mr. Taylor. And in fact, he has one of my coffee cups, one just like this one here. It sits on his desk. That's the flexibility that you love. I'm getting less flexibility as I continue to grow and have employees, but you know, particularly when you're in your first years, if you want to work on from midnight to 6 a.m., nobody cares, as long as you get the project done. It's actually, you know what? For us independent consultants, I'd be willing to bet it'd be an interesting survey. I bet we have a lot less flexibility with COVID-19 because everybody's working from home. So we all kind of have to kind of adapt. It's kind of a bummer, but you have flexibility to do what you want to do. Particularly when it's just a 1-person or a 2-person kind of a shop, what we call the onesies or twosies. If you're a onesie shop, you get the job done. And there's more money in it. I already said that earlier when I was referencing Amy's session. I'm sorry, Amy's article. I felt like I was being ripped off by my previous employers, and I made 1.5 times my own salary. One of my first questions to somebody who was an independent consultant, and she's in the American Evaluation Association, and I said, why do you do this? And she says, I consistently make 3 times what I used to make. I don't know that I've made 3 times. Maybe I'll approach that sooner or later, but definitely I've even on my down year, I exceeded what I made before I left the university where I worked previously. But there are worries. There's the uncertainty of where the next project is going to come from. Is this the last one I'll ever have? But usually, people have too much work. This is a problem, though. This is a good problem, I suppose. But it's difficult to take a vacation because you don't have anybody who can cover for you. Or I can't take on more work because I'm a 1-person shop and I'm not going in to hire another one. This was my case for a long time, and I was very happy I took the risk to go out there and to set up, to bring on staff because we've been able to grow with it. There's a chance, definitely a risk. You need to solve a little bit of risk. Quick aside on risk. Just had this conversation, I seem to say this a lot. I keep hearing about how people are losing their jobs because of COVID-19. It's because you work for one employer. I work for 19 employers. I know that sounds like a lot. And sometimes it is a little bit hard to handle and get your head around and things like that. But the reality is I can lose 1 job. I can lose 10 jobs and we'll be fine. Tom won't be fine, poor Tom. But the truth is, and Tom's fine, by the way. Nothing's going to happen to Tom. He's in great shape. But I have a lot less uncertainty because I have several people I'm working for. I've spread my risk out over 19 different projects. And so I had one project that just kind of like turned into a dud this year. It's just like they just stopped doing their work. And so they're no longer getting money from the National Science Foundation. So I'm not getting paid from them. I told that I wrote them off. No big deal. We're just going to keep moving because we've got more things to worry about. The other thing that causes people worry is the marketing and the soft skills. And I get it. It's totally rational. How do I go out and sell myself? Like, used car salesman, like, hey, why don't you come over here and sign this contract? Usually isn't that hard. You find yourself, just like you do with your colleagues in the American Evaluation Association or AAEA or from eDiesel, just talking and hanging out and doing the things that we do as professional colleagues, except you're talking about how you might be able to help somebody with their work. Usually, the best way to do marketing is just to listen to what they have to say and let them do the talking. And frequently, you have a meeting with them and you're talking with them. They often talk themselves into how they're going to work with you. And that's the secret to good marketing. It's really not about like selling. It's about just being a human being with other people. So one of the things that I thought was fascinating, and this is the thing that this was the number one thing I wanted to learn from our survey, was how much money can I expect to make? Is this totally rational? And I imagine, at least if I were you, when I'm 10 years, if I go back 10 years ago and I was sitting at this session, this would be the number one slide I'd be looking at, and the next slides too, because I wanted to know that it was totally possible. That you can tell me other people are making this happen. So here's the big finding. In median, not on average, but on median, the revenue range at the start is between 40,000 and 97,000 for our brand new consultants. The median was 75,000. So it's totally possible. If you feel, I mean, that is if you feel like you can live off $75,000 a year. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but I think most of us can make it happen. Now, what's even more interesting is over time it gets better. So when we asked our other 104 independent consultants who only had one person in their practice that didn't have multiple people, what kind of revenue they were bringing in, we saw it went up to about 123,000 after 5 years, and then after 10 years we were at about 142,000, which held about the same. We don't have that piece in this slide, but after 20 years it went down. So usually we kind of looked into this, and we don't have any like hard data on this, but most of us think it's because after 20 years people get more selective and they do what they want to do. Again, that's the awesome thing about being in the independent consulting business. You get more selective. You're really good at what you do after 20 years, I hope anyway, and you get that opportunity to be more selective. I only want to work with this type of project. The types of projects that fill me up. I'm no longer taking everything that walks in the door. Okay, so do I have what it takes? I gave you guys ahead of time a getting started with consulting worksheet to fill out. I'm not going to take time for you to fill this out because we only have an hour and we're like what, 7:06 right now. But I think you should be able to see it here. Put it on that same screen. Here's the types of questions that are in there. I'm going to ask a poll in just a second. But these are the sorts of things that we believe, or at least the author, I think that is cited in here, that Gail borrowed this from, believes are the types of characteristics and values you need to have to be able to be an independent consultant. And that's a good way to just kind of give it a little self-reflection. So do I have that intellectual capacity to provide advice? Do I have the endurance? The type of core values? Am I able to just stand? Do I have like some substance to myself? Can I handle periods of isolation? So, you know, this is the sort of thing that gives you a little bit of reflection. Do I know what skills I am selling, right? Do I know what I'm doing? So with that, knowing that not all of you have completed this, I'm going to ask the question about Moxie. I call this the Moxie. This is totally me. I didn't even ask Gail for her permission. Where are you on the Moxie spectrum? Based upon the things we've said, even forgetting that you didn't even look at this poll, where are you on this spectrum of, I am out of here, no way, to sign me up, I love a good challenge? God, I'm getting nervous. All right, I'm going to end the polling in 5, 4, 3, 2, One. All right, look, I only have one person who's, I've got doubts in their mind. Well, that's all right. You're allowed to have doubts in your mind. It's totally fair, particularly about the Moxie stuff. About half of you guys have a lot to learn, but feel somewhat confident. I feel confident, but I'm nervous about the unknown. Sign me up. I'll have a good challenge. Hi, Anne. I think that's you. All right, let me stop sharing. And by the way, one of our big questions we always get during these workshops is, what's Moxie? And so I think some of you guys know that's kind of like your confidence, your just your belief in yourself, the fake it till I make it kind of belief in yourself. But it's actually a carbonated beverage that was among the first mass-produced soft drinks in the United States. It continues to be regionally popular today, particularly in New England. It's produced by the Moxie Beverage Company of Bedford, New Hampshire. Although it was recently purchased by, wait for it, you're in Atlanta, Coca-Cola in 2018. So it's actually a soda from where you are now. That was pretty fun. All right, so let's talk about your clients, your services, and your competitive edge. It seems like a lot. I don't know if I'm going to get to all those things. In fact, I'm not even sure what all those words mean anymore. But what we're talking about now is your niche, really. We're going to be talking about your niche. So I love to reference Jim Collins. This book is a fantastic book. This is the #1 business book of all time. I mean, actually, which is kind of saying something, because How to Meet Friends and Influence People was the #1 business book. It really should be the #1 business book of all time. But this is sold more books than anything else. And what you're looking at is kind of the big idea here in the flywheel concept. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but he makes a case that there's a process that you go through to become a successful business. And of course, in Good to Great, he's talking about these really big businesses like Walgreens and things like that. But as people read this book, they started to apply it to social service agencies. I like to even apply it towards thinking about how you develop as a student, or you develop, and in this case for us, how you develop as an independent consultant. Oh, look at that. Thanks, Anne. She just put up the Good to Great link. You can go buy it. Anyhow, one of the first ideas is that you want to have level 5 leadership. Level 1 leadership is that bad boss you had when you were like 16 years old at Dairy Queen, who, you know, they just ignored you and they played favorites. But as you look at level 2 and level 3, these are better bosses. Level 3 and level 4 are kind of the bosses you've always wanted to have, people who knew what they were doing, they were competent. Level 4 is really the best bosses around. Now, level 5 is that special, rarefied air kind of boss who has both discipline towards a mission, and they're selfless about it. They do not need to be like the center of attention, and they're amazingly competent. So the best businesses start with level 5 leadership. The second piece is first who, then what. So it's all a matter of finding the right people for your business. And actually, if you have, in this context, you have big businesses. So you get rid of the people who are no longer good for your business. Or in our situation, as you're hiring people in, you don't hire the wrong people. You make the decision not to fire them. It's a funny way of saying don't hire them because they're not good for you, but it's essentially like know ahead of time. You've got that sick feeling in the back of your throat. I don't know if I should hire this person, but don't hire that person, because almost always that turns into a mistake. But it's a matter of finding the right people to work with you, which is fascinating, because what we're talking about here is hiring people before you really know what you're doing. You've got good leadership, you have good people, and then you trust your people to help identify your mission. And that becomes the next thing. You're confronting the brutal facts. What are we really good at? And what are we terrible at? So in my business, but particularly Tom, is fantastic at dashboarding. He gives sessions, paid sessions on it, and he started and learned that all just like, here with me. He didn't know anything about it. I just gave him the time to do it, and he loved it. And so he was the who, and I gave him that opportunity. We also are confronting the brutal facts. We need somebody who's a great editor. We need somebody who stops us before we send some of our reports out that are really not well written. That's an honest truth. But in all of that, then you come up with your hedgehog concept, which I'm going to talk about in a second, which is what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I supposed to be serving? And then from your hedgehog concept, you start focusing and keeping that culture of discipline. You know what you're supposed to be doing, and you don't veer from the facts. You don't veer from your focus. And then, and really only after you've done all those other things, you start finding ways to accelerate your business. So that's why I don't have, still to this day, if you can believe it, I don't have a Twitter account. I don't try and sell through Twitter. In some ways, if I get one, it's going to be more just to connect with my evaluation colleagues than it is about me as a Goshen education consulting. Although we do have a pretty large project that got started up to support military-connected kiddos in STEM camps, and so we are summer STEM camps. So we do have a Twitter whole feed now, and so I haven't even figured out how to follow it, but my project director is working on that. So I trust it's going well. She says she has 3 followers. It started yesterday, so I guess I should probably learn more about it. So what's this hedgehog concept I'm talking about? So a hedgehog is, forgetting Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog is this very fast cartoon. My son, when I explained this to him, told me I was wrong. Sonic is very fast. But hedgehogs are actually very slow-moving, purposeful creatures who move in a very determined way. And this hedgehog concept is actually used as a reference in comparison to a fox. So Isaiah Berlin wrote a poem, or I'm sorry, an essay called The Hedgehog and the Fox. And he references Greek poet Archilochus, who says the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. So when a hedgehog moves along, it moves directly and slowly, and if it gets attacked, he knows how to curl up and protect himself, whereas the fox darts around without purpose. So that is kind of what we're talking about when we talk about this, the hedgehog concept. This is the second most important slide of the entire presentation. I guarantee you, and it's one of the big revelations from the book. So this is the thing that I love to talk about, and it's so appropriate. When you're looking to see what you want to do with an independent consulting practice, you need to be thinking about these 3 things. Where does your passion lie? What do you like? What do you love? What do you wake up thinking about? What do you want to do day after day after day? I mean, obviously, you're not going to do the exact same thing. You're going to grow and mature, and you're going to meet new people, and it's going to be better as you go along. Also, what are you really good at? What is something that you can beat other people out with, that when your product is compared to someone else, everybody's going to go, oh my God, Matt, that's amazing. What is that thing? And what drives your economic engines? Where's the money? Who's funding this? So I like to think about 3 different characters that don't fit the center. There's the hopeless art student. That's somebody who loves to do art, who goes away and gets a degree in art, but they're really not that good at it, right? And there's really no money in it, so they're only fitting the passion piece of it. Or maybe they're good at it, there's no money. So that's the hopeless art student. Then there's the history education evaluator. So I'm in an education evaluation business. And a lot of what we do right now is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And with STEM, you have just a lot of opportunities. But once upon a time, there was teaching American history grants from the U.S. Department of Education, and a lot of my colleagues had them. Now, I love history. I can name every president from George Washington to the guy in office right now. And I just think this is fascinating. I wish I had gotten into those grants. Well, if I were to specialize in teaching American history grants, I would be out of business right now because I would have had to evolve. So in this situation, I could be really passionate about it, and I could be fantastically great at it, but I would not have the economic engines taken care of. Finally, we have the corporate lawyer, or the person with the golden handcuffs. It's somebody who's really good at something and has there's a lot of money in that industry, but they lost the passion. There was a book put out recently, it was on NPR, and I'll use the acronym, but this is the actual title of the book. It's just called BS Jobs. And the #1 BS job, jobs that people really hate, is the corporate lawyer. It's people who just lost their passion, but they can't stop doing it because their family has learned to depend on their incomes. So they are really great at it. They have a very specialized skill that drives their economic engine. So driving it back home to us, where is your passion? What are you really good at? And where's the money? So when you take this hedgehog concept and you put it to the flywheel, you need to take that and think about focusing your attention. So a flywheel in this book by Jim Collins is this mechanical device. It's about rotational energy. It's in your car. Your car keeps moving because of it. I don't understand it. I mean, I've had people try to explain it to me. But what I do understand are Ferris wheels. So I live in Illinois, and we have Navy Pier. And on Navy Pier, my wife and I, when we go there, we always ride the Navy Pier Ferris wheel. And so I think about if that Ferris wheel didn't have the motor, and the motor was in fact me as an independent consultant. And my value, the value of my business, is related to the amount of energy I can put into rotating that wheel. And the faster that wheel goes, the more successful I am. And however you want to define successful, perhaps it's money, perhaps it's projects or fame or whatever. But if you apply pressure to that wheel, it will begin to spin very slowly at first. Now, if you don't apply it consistently, and you start looking to the left, you start pushing to the right, you start pushing in the wrong direction, the flywheel will stop. But if you continue to put pressure on it, it will start to go faster. And if you keep showing up day after day, and you continue to rotate that thing, it will continue to go, and it will continue to go, and sooner or later, it will go on its own. That is the whole idea. You need to focus your attention. Stop before everybody gives you a shock and your eyes turn backwards. That is the whole idea around the niche. You find a niche, you stay focused on your niche. And that niche needs to be something you enjoy, obviously, where there's money, and you're good at something. Those are the three overlapping circles in that idea. Mickey Bowman wrote this, and I love this. And this is totally about niche. The no. You have to learn to say no to stay focused. Otherwise, you're pushing in the wrong direction on that Ferris wheel. Okay, so I would normally have you do individual work here if we had like more than an hour, but I do have a handout. I want to point it out to you. I think it's here. You should be able to see it. This is about the hedgehog concept. So if you have the time to do this on your own. Particularly if you're interested in thinking about what your niche should and could be. Take some time to think about each of these three things and then try and put together a sentence that is the intersections of your passion, your skill set, and where there's financial opportunity for you to have an independent business. All right, I'm gonna do some more polling. I'm going to do poll number 3. So, kind of thinking about all the things I just said, particularly thinking about the circle. I'll go back to it for you. No, I'll not do that. You're going to go crazy on me. Thinking about this, I'm going to ask you, how well do you know your niche? I think relaunching polling. I'm going to continue. Did I put it in? Okay, now it's going there. So how well do you guys know your niche? Just thinking about this. If you guys all put none through, it's fine, because I didn't really give you a chance to go through the worksheet. All right. End this just to stay on time in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Show those results. So about most of you guys are coming together about 2, and some of you guys feel like you have that clear vision where you understand all 3 of those areas. Good stuff. All right, let's go into. Sorry, I'm gonna try and. Oh, there it is. So I want to make sure we certainly don't have much time for questions because I want to make sure we got through this material. We definitely get through the niche because I think that's the critical piece. I do want you to know that Ann Price, our good friend Susan Wolf, and myself, we have a weekly gathering on Thursdays at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock my time. And so those, we call them IC topic chats. The link's there, and I think maybe somebody's going to put that in the chat for me there. If not, I'll put it up there. But that's here. You can register for it here. And we have already had like 19 sessions. I think 17 of them are loaded on a YouTube channel, so you can look at all those. But here's the list of them. Two of the things we did today. Well, no, one of them we did today. Niche. Marketing. Today we even talked about evolving the niche. So we took that idea and we went ahead with it. See a couple things in here from Ann Price. She talked about mentoring on July 2nd, and on September 10th, she talked about business planning. Should also put in a plug for Ann. She also has, if you're starting up a consulting practice and you want some free business coaching, she has a group that gets together. She can post about this in the chat called Office Hours, and it seems like a fantastic small group of people who just sit and kind of bounce ideas off each other, and Ann, who's experienced, provides some background on that. But we also do that on Thursdays for about an hour when we have a topical, a different topic each week, and we discuss that. All right. Oh, apparently I have it in here a couple times. How's that working? And, oh, there we go. Thanks for listening. All right.
Awesome.
So I'm going to pass it back over to you. Hey, I did it. I can't believe it. I know I felt like I'm talking so fast just to make sure to get through all the material. Hopefully somebody gets something out of this.
Yeah. So I think we have, I'll say 3 or 4 minutes for questions. So open the floor to our participants. Yes, so the YouTube links in the IC topic chat recordings, I can include them into the recording email that I will send tomorrow as well.
And they're right here. That's the same thing from the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Linda's here. Hi, Linda. She was part of us today at Thursday, on Thursday's chat too. She always goes for a walk. We're always jealous.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? I didn't have one, but I worry if we don't have this. Okay, so I'll just ask a quick question, Matt. So could you share like one of your most challenging times since you started your own consulting business, and how did you navigate through it?
I'm gonna narrow in on the early one. When I first started my consulting practice, I had 5 projects. And 4 of them were math and science partnership grants, and one of them was another U.S. Department of Education grant. It's all from the U.S. Department of Education. And it was scary to me because in year 2, after I had gone through a full year of work, one of the statewide evaluator decided she wanted to be the evaluator for all grants. And so she was writing herself in as both local and state evaluation, and for some reason the state bought into it. And they completely wrote me out of opportunities going forward. And I thought, how am I going to continue to do this? And my big lesson learned there was diversify your revenue opportunities. So stay within your niche, find a way to do different things for different types of people. So I no longer don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Make sure you have several different baskets and kind of spread it around. Because I got very nervous that all my projects were going to come to an end and I wouldn't have anything left to do. And I'd be out of a job. So that was my big finding there. Definitely diversify your revenue.
So Simone here asked another question. How did you juggle working full-time and starting your consulting business?
It was tough. Nights and weekends. I took vacation to go meet with clients. Took vacation to go to some of their mandatory required meetings, but that's the time where you're kind of struggling. I mean, I probably struggled more with the doing two things. And we had more money than we knew what to do with at the time because we were used to working on my wife's salary and my salary, and all of a sudden I had this extra evaluation that was like free money, you know, it just came in. So the money was fantastic, but it was, you know, you just have to balance your time. It was a bit like writing a dissertation while having a full-time job. You find time for it because it's meaningful.
We have one more question. Since you do not answer calls for evaluation contracts, how do you establish a statement of work with new clients?
Sure. So I frequently, I guess maybe I said that when people are sending out RFP evaluation work, what I often do is most of my work comes with writing grants with people who don't have the projects yet. And so I partner with them to write the grant, and then we all cross our fingers and wait 6 months until the National Science Foundation figures out whether they want to fund our client or not. But when they receive that project, I've already created a statement of work through my evaluation plan. And so that becomes the work that I do, and then I put that into a contract. I primarily work with the Department of Defense, education activity, and the National Science Foundation at universities that do that type of work.
Cool. I think we're close to 7:30, and I just wanted to quickly provide an update for the upcoming events for AAEA.